Hello, and this is Kugan Cassius for Raw Podcast. This week, delighted to be joined by legendary trainer, Mr. Jimmy Tibbs. How are you, mate?
Very well, thank you. Good. Very well.
You keeping well, Jim?
Yeah, keeping well, doing a little bit of light training and just to keep myself, I'm getting on a bit, so I'll keep myself in a little bit of shape. Yeah.
Cool. Right, listen, I want to start off by just showing you something. And just have a look at this picture and tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you see this.
Oh, well, that's Muhammad Ali. That wasn't a knockdown. That was I was asked to spar with Muhammad Ali, and I couldn't make it out from. What's he want to spar with me? Well, I'm only a 12-stone fighter. Anyway, I was on the same bill as him. So Mickey Duff and Terry Lawless at the time sent someone round to me. Said, "You've got to come up White City." And, well, will you come up White City? And they didn't say, like, you working out with Ali and that. They did say that, yeah, they're working out with Ali. And I thought, well, he must have bigger sparring partners than me. He won't want to spar with me. But I'll go up there because I was fighting on the same bill. And I goes up there and see Jimmy Ellis and a couple of other sparring partners. And I left me protector. Forgot that, but I borrowed his protector. And if you look on that photo, you'll see J.E. My name's James Edwards. Right, and I got that blown up indoors. It looks well, but see Ali, I spoke to Ali. He didn't look too happy, and I thought, well, this could be the real. Like, but got ready, had to loosen up, done my hands up, got ready, got in the ring. Out we goes, messing, looking at one another like that. I chucked the jab, just touched the top of his head guard, and he hit the floor. And I thought, did I hit him? I don't think I hit him. I couldn't make it out. Anyway. Then I heard click, 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 all the cameras, and then I sussed it. Oh, this is for publicity, one way or the other, you know what I mean? But then them photos went all around the world. So all I can say is, I never sparred with Muhammad Ali, but I shared the ring with one of the greatest heavyweights of all time.
If I not remember correctly, but if I get this right, you were 19 years old at the time.
Absolutely, 19 years of age, yeah, just turned pro. That fight was, I think, about my fourth or fifth fight as a pro. And after that, I went up to 8 rounds. The next fight was at Albert Hall. Good fighter. I can't think of his name, but he was a good fighter, good 8-rounder.
You made your pro debut in the 60s?
1966 at the Albert Hall.
Lennon, was it?
Eddie Lennon.
Eddie Lennon, that's it. Do you remember it like it was yesterday?
I can remember it. Well, look, mate, he was a what do you call him? Not a sparring partner, but he got in the ring. So after half a second, after half a minute, I knew I was going to stop him. I stopped him in 2 rounds. He come to do his job, but he was brought in so I would win, really, you know what I mean? That's the way they tried to build me up, like, you know.
For you, Jim, growing up in the East End, obviously your family's well known from the world and also obviously that part of London, but just give us a brief outline of East End life for you in the 70s.
Well, East End life in the 70s, when I was boxing, I turned pro in 66. I was finished up in the 70s, finished boxing because I got arrested and I went to prison. But before that, growing up in the East End, where I come from, Canning Town, everyone knew one another. And I was a top amateur boxer at the time. And I always sold West End bars out, places like that. And I always had the bills up all along the poster, along the road and that. So everyone got on very well with one. It's different, it's different today, you know. It was very, you could sit outside your house and people walk by, how you doing, Jim, when you're fighting, and different things like that. And then in the 70s, I was just getting ready for a fight. Something happened to my brother, and I don't really want to go into it a lot, but I took the law into my own hands like a fool, but it had to be done at the time. I thought it had to be done at the time, and it was done, but we got arrested for it. And I got 10 years. So I was out of action before that happened, I lived in East Ham, moved to East Ham, a lot quieter. When anyone come from Canning Town to move to East Ham, they classed you as posh. And but I lived in East Ham, that's where I got arrested, and I went to prison, you know.
Obviously, at that time, prison life compared to now, I'm going to assume was a lot different then. Obviously, I think you served between 4 and 5 years of that 10-year sentence, Jim, but was that tough in there for you?
Well, if you've got a family, my wife and 2 children, Mark was about 2 years of age at the time. Jimmy was about a couple of years older than him, my other son and my wife. That's what was, it was easy really in prison. You've only got to do what you've got to do. I had a good job in the gym and I got on all right with everyone. But when you've lost your liberty, your freedom, that's what hurts. That's what hurt me. And I used to get regular visits from my wife and kids, the 2 boys, and they stood by me, all of them, and I'll never forget it. I'm getting a bit emotional, I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
You all right? You all right? Come on, you all right?
I just think going back to them things, when you talk about loyalty, my wife was very loyal. And the 2 boys, we grew up to love one another. And my Jimmy was a good footballer. He never made it, but that was his own fault. Same as me, I suppose, my own fault. I never made it at boxing because I never done what I was supposed to do, but they give me every chance. But Jimmy, he was a good footballer. He was with Leighton Orient and Colchester and Southend at the time. And Mark started boxing for West Ham Boys Boxing Club. I looked after him. I didn't interfere, but you know, I was always there to watch him and advise him what he'd done wrong or what I thought he'd done wrong. And he'd get it right, and he was good. He was good to watch. He was always smart. When he got in that ring, his shorts were ironed. It was very good. So I had Jimmy on a Saturday football when I come home from prison, and Mark boxing whenever, you know. And because he played for West Ham, he didn't get through, but he played for the Riverhawks, a club called the Riverhawks, which was the top club in East Ham. And I used to get a lot of enjoyment out of that. Sorry. A lot of enjoyment out of that. And settled down when we, you know, coming home after 4 years, 8 months I was away. Settled down with the boys, and they used to look at me at first when I was sitting there in the room, in the place where I used to sit. I used to sit there. But that's how we was. We grew up, and then I finished up moving out to not Ilford, near Ilford, the bungalow estate in Barkingside, not Barkingside, near Barking. Do you know it? The bungalow estate, all big bungalows. I had a scrap business, and we had it for years. You know, a proper business. I was getting a good living. And one day the council, the London Council decided they want to put a road for our yard, so I had to pay us compensation. And I said to my wife, look, with this compensation money, it's going to come to a nice few quid. Go to Barking, when Barking was a nice place, buy a make sure it's a semi-detached, what you like, and I'll pay for it. Anyway, she said, okay, so after a couple of months, she said, I found a place. It's in Seven Kings, the bungalow estate. Yeah. So I said, where's that? I've never heard of it. She said, jump in the motor. She drove me there. And I looked round and I thought, wow, I won't be able to pay for this, but it's beautiful. I can easily put a deposit down. And it was lovely. And that was our home for about 15 years. Yeah. The boys grew up there. It was so big, we had plenty of room for everyone. Their friends come round. It was good, it was marvellous. You know, I was very contented there. Then I moved on after that. And we finished up in Cranham in Upminster. That's where I live now. Nice little bungalow. A bit smaller.
During the 70s, compared to now, there's that old nostalgia of the East End that listen, I live in Essex, and obviously, which has got close links to East London, as you know, Jim. But from other people kind of watching in from the East End, it's like in the 70s it was known as being, or perceived to be, violent, full of gangsters, etc., etc. Was that exactly how it was, or was it a little bit movie script?
It was over the top. Over the top. I mean, when I got arrested with half a dozen of my mates, or working boys, they wanted to make a gang. Now, I'm not having to pop a whole bill, because you've got to have the police, whether you like them or don't like them. You've got to have them. Yeah. And I did do something. I mean, so I got nicked for doing what I done. So I don't hold that against them. It's just the way it went. But no, so they called us gangsters. We've never been gangsters. We've had our own business. In fact, we used to help people. And after we was arrested, lots of people got on TV from Canning Town, people I didn't know sometimes, some of them, to say, no, the Tibbses are nice people. Good people, because we worked and done our job, and I went boxing, so I didn't have to work a lot. Because my dad, I was working for my dad at the time, but when I turned pro, I went a full-time pro. So he let me do what I like, as long as it was for boxing. But obviously the Cray twins were about then. They asked me, before I turned pro, I've never had no bad words with the Crays. I didn't know them that well, to be honest with you, but they got in touch with my dad and they wanted to see me, and my dad took me up there at the time, and he spoke to Reggie. They wanted me to turn pro with him, but my dad told him, look, we'll think about it. So when we come back, we see a man who knew him very well, and I don't like to say bad things about people when they're dead, but I'm going to say this, but he said, listen, don't turn pro with the twins. They're not connected enough. They may say they've got this, they've got that, but don't go. And he got on the phone to Sam Burns, this fella. This fella was named Billy Ambrose. He used to fight for Sam Burns. Well, he was a friend of my dad's. He said, no, don't want to turn pro with him. He said, we wasn't going to turn pro with him, just as they asked. He said, no, you go, and anyway, he got in contact with Sam Burns. Now, when I got in contact with Sam Burns, who was with Jarvis Astaire, Mickey Duff, the old Terry Lawless, the old crew. And I used to go to the Terry Lawless's old gym in the Duke of Fife in East Ham. Now, this is another story. Should I go into that?
Absolutely.
This is another story. When I was about 15, I boxed Mark Rowe before I boxed him at the London finals. I boxed him at 15 at East Ham, and I beat him that night. And Billy Walker, not Boxer Bill, boxer trainer Billy Walker at West Ham, come over to me and my dad and said, Jim, talking to me, they said, could we use Jimmy, if Jimmy don't mind, to spar with Brian Bismarck? He's a flyweight, Brian Bismarck. Well, I used to be in his sister's class at school, but I didn't know him. But being up the gym, when I used to train up there, I used to go up there. No, that was the first time I went up there with Brian Bismarck. And I went up there flyweight, he introduced himself, and I sparred with him, and he used me for about a week for my left hand, because he was fighting a fighter called Walter McGowan. Remember him? Walter McGowan, flyweight champion of the world. So he wanted to use me and after I was finished, he thanked me. He didn't pay me nothing, because I didn't even worry about that. And and from then on, I started to go up to the Duke of Fife and spar with a few fighters. And I was I was 15 then, about 16, 17. But I always had my own way with them. I could box, I could fight when I had to, hook under and over, and that's how it went. So, and then, when I was 17, coming back, when I was 17, Reg Gutridge rang my house up and asked my dad if I could go up and spar with Johnny Pritchard. Another one who wanted to use my left jab, because he was fighting Wally Swift for the British title. So I knew where his gym was in North London. So I went up there on my own. My dad said, yeah, all right, Reg, as long as they don't take liberty. He said, Jim, Johnny's not a liberty taker and we won't allow that anyway. And I know, and that was right. So I goes up there and there was only one person in there barring me and Johnny Pritchard, George Francis. I didn't know him well at that time, but he said hello to me, made me feel comfortable, and he was going to watch. He was a trainer at the time. And I got in the ring. I always tell this, because I know John won't mind, he's dead now, but lovely man. Anyway, so gets in the ring, loosens up, gets in the ring, start. You carry on there?
Yeah, all good.
Start carrying on using me jab, this way, that way, nice jab, nice jab. All of a sudden, in about the second round, I've got the size of him now. I slipped his jab, hooked him to the body, hook, under and over. Bang, bang, right? Over he goes. So I thought, oh, I'm in it now. It's going to be hard now, but I've done it. I didn't mean it, but it happened. Just my natural thing to do. Because I was a natural combination fighter. Bang, bang, under and over he went. He got up, never said nothing. Went into the third round. Oh, he did say, good shot, Jim, but he went into the third round. It's not jab, done my job, and I only wanted 3 rounds. He went, that's lovely, Jim. Thanks very much. He said, I want to ask you something. Will you come up to my training camp with me up in Nottingham? I said, I will, yeah. I said, but I've got to let the old man know, my dad. He went, yeah, of course. Anyway, he said, yeah, my dad finished up coming up there. But when I got in there up there again, Bobby Neal was there, done it again, under and over he went again. But he still didn't take liberties, he stuck to his word. And then on the third day, I think it was, I sprained my ankle and I had to come home. And the next time I saw, Johnny Pritchard won that fight, he beat Wally Swift. I'm not saying it was down to me, he beat him, but he was a good fighter, Johnny Pritchard. So was Wally Swift in his day. And I come home from that, and then, of course, George Francis see that, and he's put it about, I should imagine. Then Terry Lawless was on it. Was up there still training, and he offered me, I won't mention the money, he offered me a certain amount of money to turn pro. This was when I just turned 19, or coming up for 19. And I said, I'll think about it, so I'll let you know tomorrow or the next day, whenever. Okay, Jim. I knew Ralph Charles, who was with him, because he was at West Ham with me, where I was with him. He's a bit older than me, sorry. And Jimmy Anderson was with him at the time, and Tony Moore at the time. So I went home, told the old man what Terry said. He offered me so-and-so. He went, do you want to turn pro? I said, I'd like to turn pro, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I do want to turn pro, because that's my ambition. But looking back on it now, I think I turned pro too soon, 19. But at the time, I wanted to turn pro, and I wanted to win the British title when I was 21. But that never happened. Anyway, so he said to me, right, go back and see Terry Lawless and tell him to double it. So I went back and told Terry, see me dad, he said, you've got to double it. He went, done, shook hands, done it. Next night, goes up there, Mickey Duff's there, he comes there, Mick signed contracts, and that was it. So I've turned pro with Terry Lawless. Then we moved from there to another gym at Plastow. That didn't suit. We finished up at the Royal Oak. And I opened up that Royal Oak sparring. I don't know why there wasn't anywhere else up there. And I've got a photo on my phone, if you want me to get it out.
No, we can get it out later.
I've got a photo on my phone of me sitting there with Ray Clark, Reg Gutridge, Terry Lawless, the Boxing Board of Control governor at the time, can't think of his name, all round me. I'm sitting there like that, just getting ready for training. And I opened up with a sparring session, didn't have no sparring, but we got hold of my mate come up there. He was a big fella, he could box, he could fight, so I just done a bit of sparring with him. Just opened the gym, like opening of the gym at the Royal Oak. Oh. And that's how I turned pro. And I had 20 fights with Terry. And I loved every minute of it. I loved it. So it wasn't their fault. They looked after me, Lawless, Duff, everyone. I can remember when I fought Hugh Lynch, a southpaw, and there was Terry, I think, was a little bit worried about me fighting a southpaw. I didn't worry about fighting southpaws. And Denny Mancini said to him, well, I swear. I shouldn't swear, should I?
No, absolutely.
He said, I don't give a fuck whether it's a southpaw or a northpaw, he won't beat Jimmy Tibbs. And I beat him on points. And when I see the film of it, I've got the film of it indoors, which was given to me, unbeknownst to the BBC actually. I was sparring, I got a friend of mine to come in, because there were no sparring partners there. He was a big fella, big heavyweight, but I could spar with him. I knew more than him, he was only an amateur. And I moved around and he went to me, Jim, you ain't going to take no liberties, are you? I went, promise you, John, I won't take no liberties. And I'm moving about with him, but I had him on the ropes. And the same thing, I had him, left hook, right hand, left hook. And all the time he's going, he went, oh, hold up a minute. Oh, sorry, John, but we had that just to open the gym. You know, it was nice, it was good. And as I say, I settled in there with Terry very quick because he signed more fighters up at the time. And but I can only remember me, Rolf Charles, Jimmy Anderson, Tony Moore, Phil Watford. Phil Watford, light heavyweight he was. Spar a lot with him because I was billed as a light heavyweight, but I was only 12 stone. But we used to spar quite a lot. Tony, another fella, Billy Brown. I think that was the squad then. Obviously, over the years, he's built up big time. And after that, when I come out of prison, because I was training for a fight. While the trouble was going on, I said to my wife and that, look, I've had enough of it all now. I've had enough. Tic-tac, one with the other. I said, I've had enough. I'm going to ring Terry Lawless up and Mickey Duff, ask them if they can get me licence back, and I want to start fighting again. And I was 24, 25 at the time. Right time. I felt strong. I always had the ability. Anyway, so I said, you got your licence right away, don't worry about it, we get it. Starts training for the fight. Watching it. Now, you've got to remember, it wasn't like doing weight like they do now, nice and comfortable. In them days, it was water and meat and greens. You know, it was hard. But we didn't know no different because it wasn't in our brain. Got me? So we didn't worry about it. We thought it was the right thing to do. Always went 8 or 10 rounds or 15 rounds sparring. I've done that many a time. And so we started training for the fight. And I was ready for the fight. And a week before the fight, I was going to start easing up now and everything. Mate, the weight's right. Not bang on the weight. A couple of pound over the weight. 3 pound maybe, whatever. I was fighting 11 stone 8. Mickey Duff said, Jimmy, you got to come in 11-8, otherwise you ain't getting paid. I said, don't worry, I'll do it. And because coming down for another half a stone, right? No, so and then a week before that, I got nicked, got arrested. I was bang on the weight and everything. But let me tell you this, going back on myself again, boxing. I've told you that bit about making the weight up middleweight. It was hard for me. But I had to do it. I mean, it would have been done. But when I was weighing 12 stone 1, and billed as a light heavyweight, looking back now, I'm a bit more wiser. I should have stayed at that weight because I had so much energy, so much I could fight for 20 rounds. I wouldn't, and this time I thought I'd have to pace myself a little bit here, which I did. I had 4 or 5 middleweight fights. I was unbeaten, but I found it a little bit more difficult, obviously, through making the weight. But when I thinking back now, I often think, I should have stayed because I probably, as I was going to get older, I probably would have put a bit more weight on, but I could eat and drink what I liked, and I had so much energy. But there you go. I never done that.
Jim, I want to take you back to '93. I'm going to want to speak about in '93. What do you remember about that BENN-EUBANK fight, like how many 3 decades later?
What, the first one, BENN-EUBANK?
The draw.
Oh, the draw, that was I can remember that very well. He got beat in the first fight with Eubank, obviously got stopped, I think, didn't he? Yeah. Anyway, I started training Nigel Ben. He rang me up, spoke to my wife at first, and he said, is that Mrs. Tibbs? Very polite. She said, yes. He said, well, I'm ringing her up so I want your husband to train me. She was over the moon. I was probably down the gym at the time. And she said, when he comes in, I'll tell him, obviously. She said, but there's only one thing, Mrs. Tibbs. I want him to train me in Tenerife. She said, that's okay, no problem. There was never no problem me going away. And So when I come in, she told me, and I got in touch with him, and he came round my house, the bungalow in Seven Kings, to the room. We sat down, had a talk, agreed a formal contract, you know, like didn't sign nothing. Just agreed word for word. He come round with someone else. I don't know whether it was Peter de Freitas or this other fella, but he come round with someone else. Obviously, not I don't know why, but he did. And we agreed at an event night to meet him out in Tenerife a week later or 2 weeks later. And I went out to Tenerife and had a lovely apartment for me. I stayed with him the first night, but my apartment was ready the next day and went in there. And he said to me, "What do you reckon, Jim, about my fights?" I said, "Look," I said, "we're talking to talk boxing now." I said, "I've watched you, Nigel, many occasions. And I'm a great admirer of yours because you can knock a man out with one punch when you connect." I said, "But let me tell you something, when you jab, you always go, you jab and you lift your head up. One day you might get it on the chin, something might happen." Put it out to him, he went, yeah. Then I told him to relax when he relaxed more. And remember in them days, I could shape up just like him. I could shadow box good. You know, I said, "Shape up." He went, "Show me." And I showed him what I think he should do. And he done it. And he walked the 12 rounds every time. He had to do 12 rounds. And he loved his sparring. He told me he didn't do a lot of sparring, but he'd done a bit of sparring. But for the big fight for the guy that come from York, I don't know if you can remember his name, good fighter. Mickey Duff had him, York. So this is where I'm a bit, my old memory goes a bit here. But anyway, he was the #1 contender. He was the #1 contender for the WBC title. And I said, "Look, this is going to be hard, Nigel," and he's sparring. And he was sparring terrible. So I said, "Right, this is what we do." I had the confidence. I said, "This is what we do. Sack the sparring partners. I'll be your sparring partner." I didn't mean him to get in the ring with gloves, with my pad work. Yeah. And he done that with the pads, beautiful. I said, "Now you're in top shape." And he boxed like Sugar Ray Leonard that night. He jabbed his head off. The guy from York had a go, don't get me wrong, tried from round one, but I think he was a bit overawed at the time with Nigel Benn's reputation. And we won it quite comfortably. Yeah, won the fight. And I was 7 fights, I think, 6 or 7 fights, unbeaten with him. And then we parted. We're still friends today. I do see him now and then when he comes over to England. I know his boy very well. Nice kid, nice boy. But Nigel, people used to say to me, "Oh, you're going to have trouble with him." I never had no trouble with Nigel Benn. He was marvellous to train and a nice fella.
Do you find it strange now seeing the rivalry between Nigel's son Connor and Eubank's boy Chris Jr.? Do you find that whole situation a bit surreal and a bit weird that these two are most likely going to fight next year?
Yeah, I do. I think BENN-EUBANK, the boys, the sons, is a 50-50 fight. It all depends what weight they want Eubanks to come in. You know, they asked him to drop a lot, but I don't know whether that's none of my business really, but I think it'll be a great fight. I think it'll be a great fight. 2 warriors. It seems as if they've got the genuine hump with one another. And but yeah, I can say I know Nigel, Conor Benn. Yeah. Don't know him like I know his father, but I know him. I spoke to him many times. Nice fella, a bit of a gentleman. I think he is. I don't know. What's his first name?
Chris Jr.
Chris Jr. So much, but you know, he's a good fighter. Yeah. I think he's a very good fighter. It's going to be a good fight.
Well, look, that fight, as we understand, is close to being done, but we'll wait and see what happens with that. Who would you say was the most talented, naturally talented fighter that you ever trained?
Naturally talented, but I would say Billy Joe Saunders, one, because he wasn't a concussive puncher, but everyone can hit a little bit hard when they get caught properly. He was naturally he done everything. You only had to look at him, tell him once he done do it, pick it up like that, pick it up like that. Scottish kid, cool, it's gone right on my head. Flyweight he was. Won the European title with me out in Sardinia. Then obviously the big punchers of Nigel, BENN, Frank Bruno. Chris Pyatt was a very natural good fighter. He had everything, Pyatt. I don't think he got the recognition that he deserved. Because when he won the middleweight title, he was only a light middleweight, when he won the middleweight title, he fought Sambo Colombe, and that was an hard fight. But I said, Chris, you can't back up with this guy. You've got to push him back, belt him. I said, you can belt him anywhere. You won't get disqualified. You've got to give it to him. And after 6, 7 rounds, Barry Earn was involved then. He come up to me and went, Jim, he's 6 rounds up. So I was lovely, couldn't wait. I said, you're up, you're up. Just keep doing what you're doing. And in the 10th round, he come walking back to me, Chris, and I turned him round and went, look at him. They're carrying him back to the corner. And they give him that little bit of spurt. Great fighter. I think he was a good fighter. Nigel, BENN, Chris Pyatt, Charlie Magri, another great fighter. I'm going to mention this kid because he was world champion, but they didn't recognise it. They did recognise it at first. Jason Rowlands, he won the WBC, he was a good fighter, but Ricky Hatton took it off him. So they recognised it with Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton, a great fighter, stopped him in 3 rounds. So, but that was fair enough, you know. And he was a great fighter, Ricky. He's a great comedian and all. Makes me laugh every time I see him. But I'm trying to think now. Charlie Magri. He was a box fighter, good puncher. I reckon he was the pound for pound the best puncher I trained. And I think he should have moved up to bantamweight. But that was nothing, that was out of my control. That was with Terry Lawless and the people that promoted him and that, you know.
Who was the easiest person to train and who was the most difficult person to train?
Well, let's look at it like this. Charlie Magri, Jason Rowlands, Chris Pyatt, Nigel, BENN, and there's another one. Charlie Magri. Billy Joe, yeah. They was all natural, easy to train. The better fighter you've got, the easier it is. Now, I had a couple of fighters, the light middleweight, used to knock everyone out. Good puncher. I had to coach him a bit, because he used to always had his head up in the air. What's his name? He's a referee now in the unlicensed fights. Anyway, he finished up British and European champion with me. And for months, I think, could have been years, I used to say, Wayne Alexander.
Wayne Alexander, wow.
Good puncher, lovely fella. Wayne, keep your chin down. You never know, keep it down. Don't keep jabbing and lifting it up. Don't keep doing that. And I walked into the gym one day, and there he was, chin up in the air, chin up in the air. And I went, Wayne. He looked at me, I went, higher, get it up higher, higher. And he went, he didn't know what to do, he knew what I meant. You know, but he was a good fighter. He was a good fighter, but he needed a little bit. See, them 5 I first mentioned, they picked it up very, very quick. And there's another one, the Scottish kid. Oh, he was European champion, he was a good fighter. But most of them, even Mark, when I trained him for a bit, natural. Just tell him, Mark, sparring with this guy's a good puncher, keep him with the jab, he's a southpaw, step in with him, right uppercut, left hook, you know what I mean? He's gone crack, crack, bomb, knocked him out. I went, and I started screaming and hollering at Mark, and this flyweight I'm trying to think of said to me, Jim, you're out of order, you're going to lose him the way you're going on. And I thought, you're right. But Mark's never held it against me. In fact, when he's asked me to work with him, he's the main trainer, obviously, with all his fighters he's got. But I just help out, and he does everything he can for me, you know.
Jim, I know, obviously, you, without sounding disrespectful or anything, but you are not as active trainer-wise as you was a few years ago.
No, you're not disrespectful.
And I don't mean that to be funny, you know.
You're quite right.
Yeah.
That's my own choice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 78 years of age. You know?
Same age as my dad. He was born in 46 as well.
And I'm still working in the boxing game. So I do cuts. I always used to do my own cuts when I was a trainer. So when I retired from training, that was in about 1970, after I finished with Billy Joe, I started to do cut work permanently. And I worked with David A, Bellew, Tony Bellew, David A, and lots of fighters. All Mark's heavyweights. He trained the big heavyweight. I can't think of his name. But every time I work with him, I'm Mark's cut man now. Yeah. So and I'm doing the cuts for Tony super featherweight, bantamweight tonight. He's asked me to do his cuts tonight. Right. So it's another fighter I've got to do. I'm doing 2 instead of 1. No, I'm not as active, and I don't want to be. I don't want to take fighters on. I could have done. Yeah. I could have done, but it is work, harder work. I'm 78. I want to relax a bit. I want to go to the gym when I want to go there. I want to relax, except for if we've got big fights on. Then I go up there and do a bit of groundwork for Mark. They might ask me something, and if I give them a little bit of coaching, I need a little bit. Mark's the main trainer at that gym. And that's how I am, so it's my own choice, you know.
But do you think you'll ever completely come away from it, Jim?
Not really. You can't. How can you walk away from it? I mean, I'm thinking, I'm out here, I'm thinking, will this be the last one? I don't know, we've got to see. I've enjoyed it so much out here with the people, with the boxing people and the training people and the people who live here. Yeah. It's been a real joy for me to be here. Because it wasn't like this the first time I come out here. That was in with George Groves, when he defended his...
I was at that fight.
Was you? Yeah, with George Groves. How long ago? Was it 8 years? 10 years?
No, it wasn't that long. No, it wasn't that. I reckon it was about 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. I think it was.
The last time I was out was in Jeddah.
Jeddah, yeah.
And I don't think I went out the side of the hotel then. And I went over there with the McGuigans. To train Barry McGuigan. Yeah. He's got to be put in that class. He didn't have to tell Barry what to do. He was already world champion. I trained him on his comeback. I had about 4 or 5 fights with him. He looked good though. He was a good fighter, Barry McGuigan. And a bit of a nice man, gentleman. Good puncher. So you can put him in that class with the 5 I just mentioned, with the champions. And I trained a lot of 6-rounders. Bit at Shoreditch with Southern Area title fights. Great fights. I can't think of their names, but they was like world title. I loved it because one fighter said to me, "Oh, this fighter's Jim. He's just come up to me. He said he's going to do this to me. He's going to do that." I said, "Yeah, we'll see." And I had it in me then. I'm not like that now, you know. I go, well, this is what you've got to do. And I used to say to Johnny Eames, who was his manager, "John, this is what he's got to do. Back him up. Back him up." It was a 10-round fight. Back him up. Don't stop. And tell him to get his head out of the way. He said, he can't do that. I said, well, just tell him to keep going forward. And he stopped him in the 9th round. Wow. Some of their title fight. Brilliant.
Might be a difficult one for you to answer. If we take your son out of it for a minute, who do you think the best trainer in the country is? Is that a difficult one for you? If we take your boy out of it for a minute.
No, forget he's there. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, there's a few good trainers. One was Shane McGuigan's a good trainer. I'm not going to say anyone's the best because there's a couple. Shane McGuigan. The guy we're fighting tonight, the heavyweight, that trainer, Jamie Moore. Jamie Moore, good trainer. Manchester man, been around for years, same time as me, he's still going. I can't think of many trainers, but there's lots of good. There's lots of good trainers out there. They've all got their own.
Billy Nelson's here, Gary Lockett's here.
They're all good trainers. They're all young, they're good trainers. Yeah. But Billy Nelson, he's been around as long as me, I think. No, I'm a bit older than him, Bill. But Gary Lockett, he's a young man. If he stays there, you see, if he puts his hours in, and you've got that ability to train, you still need that ability to train people. You can't just say, get on that bag and do 5 rounds, or do that. And it's not all about pad work, even though I think I was one of the first persons to do the pad work properly with the combinations in the country. I think I was. I don't know, I couldn't think of anyone else. Then everyone else started to do it. But I ain't taking a compliment for that. That's just what I done. And I could be wrong what I said there, but I don't think I am. And when when I first went with Terry Lawless, I went up to Jim to see him, and he said to me, Jim, I'm going to America for a couple of weeks. Would you look after these fighters for me while I go? I went, yeah, I'll look after them. And he went, and there was Charlie Magri, Mark Kaler, Lloyd Hunnigan, Frank Bruno, everyone. The welterweight who won the British title with Jimmy Anderson. See, no, I just mentioned him earlier on. Well, he had he built a good class team there now. All could win a British title and go on further. Like Charlie Magri won the European title and the world title with me, right? Now, so I got the pads out. Started doing pads out. I don't know, I think Charlie was first, as it happens, because I was training him for the world title fight. So, yeah, anyway, so I got Charlie first, then someone else looked, can I go? So they all was lining up for the pad work. They loved it, right? Because I don't think they had any pad work up there. Pad work. So when Terry come back after 2 weeks, I didn't bother to go up there, because not because I didn't want to, but I thought, I've done my job, he's asked me to do it, I've got to go round the yard and that. But he rang me. He said, Jim, would you come up to the gym? I want to see you about a bit of business. So I went up there and see him. He said, Jim, the fighters want to use you as a trainer. Mainly Charlie Magri, who was getting ready for the world title fight, right? So I went, yeah, I said, I'll give it a go. So we worked a deal out. Nothing on contract, but we worked a deal out. And I started training them. And I said, Terry, I said, listen, can't have all these fighters in at the same time. They can't all have Jimmy Tibbs. They can't all get in the ring at once. So I said, we've got to make a schedule. So I said, he went, we'll put Frank Bruno at the top, right? Right, Frank Bruno in the other area, Gary Mason, blah, 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 at the other top. Then it went down from heavyweights, light heavyweights, welterweights, there's no in-between weights then, right? Right down to flyweights. Right. So everyone had a half chance for sparring. And it worked very, very well. Yeah, everyone was happy. Because they all had a bit of Jimmy Tibbs. Saying that with respect, you know, we all had our job to do. There was me, there was Terry Lawless, Frank Black and myself.
Who would you want to play you in a film? There should be a film about you, Jim, your life, come on. Who would you say?
Oh, mate, I would have said Robert De Niro 20 years ago.
You can say Robert De Niro now, I think you look younger than him. But yeah, I mean, you have a book out, didn't you, Jim? You've got a book out. But yeah, I mean, your life and kind of your family's life is...
my life, that's right, my life. My life was my life before I went to prison, and it was all boxing, right? And my wife went along with that because her cousin was Terry Spinks, and she knew about boxing. So she, every now and then, I had to box. And the boys were growing up with it, so I'm helping Mark, and I'd go and watch Jimmy play football. It was all sport. So when I come out of prison, so about Terry Lawless, so I became a trainer. So I used to put the hours in. He had about 11, 12 fighters. And I started off from 10, I get up there at 10, make sure I'm up the oak and start off about 4 o'clock. And I was so fit, sometimes I used to run from Canning Town to East Ham, run home. My old dad used to say to me, you must be mad. I used to love it, training. And it was to get through all the fighters, start off with Bruno, with his sparring and a bit of pad work, then after I finished with someone else coming. It all worked comfortable like that. But that's not what I was going to say. And I can't think of it, what I was going to say. It was something very interesting about being retired and training. So it goes on to the training, and my first world champion was Charlie Magri, even though Terry Lawless was with us, but he was the manager. Frank Black was the cup man. He won the world title at Wembley. I can't think of the fighter's name. Then my second one was, that's what I was going to tell you. So I went on and won all these world titles, the 5 people I told you. Yeah. But when I come out of prison, I was working around my yard for about 7 to 10 years, and something happened to me, and I become a born-again Christian. Now, I don't know if you're interested in this. I become a Christian. Now, when I become a Christian, God said to me, I'm not going to make you a Christian to change your life, because you are Jimmy Tibbs, and you're always going to be Jimmy Tibbs, but you're going to be better. You're going to be better my way. So I carried on with this born-again Christian business. I just couldn't get, I don't know why, I just couldn't get, even when I was training fighters, well, not while I was training them, but before I started training them, I just kept thinking of Jesus. Now, I've left Terry Lawless now. I've got my own gym in West Ham. I've got my own squad of fighters. All the youngsters, the Rowlands brothers, Mark, this one, but I've got a lot of elder ones, Pyatt, Gary Stretch, and people like that. Gary, the big heavy, like, no, not Gary Mason. He retired. He was still with Terry. So, but I kept thinking about Jesus. No matter what I'd done, even when I went fishing, I thought, why do I keep thinking about Jesus all the time? Why? You know, I didn't know why. But my mate, a fella called Mickey May, a very close friend of mine, I used to go out with him a lot to have a drink. And we was going out this night, and he said, Jim, you heard about Benny Stafford? Now, it was a fella from Canning Town who knew everyone in Canning Town. He said, he's a born-again Christian. Now, me and Mickey May were Catholics. We didn't go to church, and but we was Catholics, brought up Catholics. And I went, yeah? I said, what's that then? He went, I don't know. So I said, well, might keep him up with the booze, eh? Might do him a favour. Left it at that. 7 years later, no, I was training his boy, so I used to see him, I used to train his son. Yeah. But 7 years after that, Mickey May told me that, he came to the gym, my gym, and asked me if he could train in there. And I thought, I don't want him talking to these fighters about God, right?
Talking about God.
I don't want these fighters talking about God. And he went, so I didn't tell him that though. I had a look at Big Jimmy, I had a look around, I went, all right, Ben, you can come in. I said, train in that area over there, Ben, because I want to keep a bit of room for the fighters over here. All right, Jim. But he come up there to tell me, to say something, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So he's got to know my routine in my routine. And he got to know when I wanted to have a cup of coffee. And one day, all the shows got cancelled. It was about 2 or 3 title fights I had on, but all the shows got cancelled, the whole lot. And I went berserk in the office. And he went to me, Jim, this was his opening, see? You need the peace of Jesus. And I went, Ben, and I've got enough problems trying to get these boys fights. Anyway, anyway, so he went, he said, I'm telling you you need the peace of Jesus. So I said, how long's this thing been about? 8 years, 10 years? He went, over 2,000 years. And I thought, yeah, I learned that at school. In my head, I didn't say it, but I learned that at school. Yeah. So I started asking him questions. And this went on and on and on until it went on for about a year. But before that year ended, as he kept phoning people up, this certain person up. So I said, who do you speak to when you phone him up? He said, he's a vicar. He's been a Christian for 60 years, Jim, ex-soldier. He said, he can tell you more about it than me. So I went, yeah, okay. I said, take me round to see him after these boys are finished. Can you take me round to see him? He said, we made a phone call, we're going round this afternoon. Goes round there, knocks at the door, opens the door, big tall man. He said, hello, Benny, come in. Hello, Jim. He said, I've heard a lot about you in boxing. Shook hands with him, went in there. And he asked me if I wanted to sit down. I said, no, thanks, I'll stand. I don't know why. I'll stand. He said, would you like a cup of tea? I said, yes, please. So cut a long story short, he's made me a cup of tea. I got a cup of tea in my hand. and this is the only way I can describe it, I felt overcome. And I thought, I looked round like that, and I thought, if I don't sit down, I'm going to fall down. So I got a cup of tea, I backed up, found a chair, put my tea down somewhere like that, and I was looking at them. They haven't said a word. There's Benny there and him. And as I'm looking at him, the tears began to roll down my eyes, my face. And I whipped my hanky out and I went, no, no. And I thought, what's the matter with me? No, no, like that. Only for about 20 seconds or so, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit shorter. And I straightened myself up. I said, I apologised about it. I said, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. But I still didn't say nothing. And I said, I'm going home now. And I shook hands with him. And as I'm driving home down the A13, I lived in Seven Kings then, down the A13, I thought, there's something in this. I don't know whether I called him Lord God or Jesus, but I asked him to help me. I asked him to help me. And within a fortnight, there's not a certain prayer you can pray to God, become a born-again Christian, because it goes by the heart. Yeah. But I had that prayer in my house, and after a year, 10 months, talking to Benny, I thought, I believe. Now, lots of people say they believe, or they'll believe in something. That's what I used to say. I believe there's something there. But I really did believe now. Because what was happening to me, why was I always thinking about Jesus? I believe that he was searching, he was looking for me. So I finished in the gym one night early. I drove home to my house in the bungalow. It's got out upstairs. I got the Prayer of Salvation book out. It's called Journey to Life, it's called. And inside it's got the Prayer of Salvation. But you can say any prayer, but I wanted to say this certain prayer. And I got down on my hands and knees because I meant it. Now you've got to remember, in Canning Town at the time, I was one of the chaps. Well, I wasn't a Liberty Taper, I was one of the boys. But I believed this and I didn't care what anyone said. I've done it all. I've met everyone, kings and queens, presidents, everyone. But I'm going to do what I'm going to do here. And I said that prayer of salvation on my hands and knees. And the first person I told was my wife, Claudette. And she said, how long's that going to last? Right? So I said, no, I've said it now. I was searching for a church now. Talk about once I was blind, now I can see. I was riding around Ilford, High Street and this place and that, and all I could see was, Jesus loves you. Jesus, but I never saw that before. I never recognised that before, but I could see it everywhere. And in the end, my wife bumped into her friend. She was talking to her friend, and the friend's little girl said, Mum, we've got to go now. We're going to church tonight. So my Claudette said to her, you go to church, Lynn? She said, yeah. She said, we're born-again Christians. So she said, my Jimmy's one of them. She went, Jimmy? You sure? I said, yeah, Jimmy's a born-again Christian. What church does he go to? He's looking for one. Oh. Tell him to come to the Ilford Pentecostal. That's where I started off. Wow. It was marvellous. It was marvellous. They made me feel welcome. The songs, it wasn't just like hymns. It was proper like a rock concert sometimes. Proper songs. You got the feeling. I got blessed there. And that was 33 years ago. And I'm still with the Lord. Praise God. That's it.
Jimmy Tibbs, listen, much appreciate your time. Some of that I knew snippets of, obviously. Yeah, you talking and being open. Yeah, it was quite enlightening. So I do appreciate your time, Jimmy. I know, I say you're a busy man, but you are a busy man. You're keeping yourself active, and it's great to see.
I don't sit indoors all day. I can't do that. I'm up to the gym or go for long walks, but I like to go to the gym 3 times a week. A few light weights, a little bit of walking, a little bit of stretching. Then if Mark wants me, go to the gym. And Jesus will get rid of that coffee, I know that.
Oh. I'm editing all the coughs out, by the way, but yeah, that's a different conversation. Jimmy Tibbs, thank you very much for coming on to Raw Podcast with myself, Kugan Cassius, and much appreciate you sharing some of your stories over the years, Jim. Like I said, I know you was born in 1946 because that was the year my dad was born. So, appreciate your time, Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Kugan. It's nice to speak to you. Nice to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Make sure you comment, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much.